first known rules of golf were drawn up in 1744 by the Gentlemen Golfers of Edinburgh in Leith, Scotland. Since then, the game has changed dramatically. Golf courses, equipment, and not least the rules. So where do I go when I want to learn about the rules of the game today? Well, I go to the Golf Rules Questions podcast with Blakey and Roscoe, of course. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of the Golf Rules Questions podcast.
Hey everyone, episode 52 of the Golf Rules Questions podcast is about to happen, and my special guest this week is Stuart McPhee, who's already laughing at me because I've already blundered up the start. So thank you, Stuart. How are you going, sir?
I'm very well, thank you, Blakey. Very well, very excited to be here too. Thank you.
So just a little intro from me first about Stuart. Stuart and I met doing he was doing the rules course, although I always think that I'm doing the rules course when I do the workshops, because I always learn as much as the next person sitting out there listening to me. But Stuart and I met at a rules course at Royal Melbourne. Was it, Stuart?
It was. It's a name drop, yes.
Which was fantastic, fantastic venue, because they've got this little function area where we could fit about 40 of us. And then they've got a 37th hole at Royal Melbourne, which we walked out to on day 2. And Brian and myself and possibly the other Brian were setting up the practical sessions and showing everyone sort of some of the new rules of the game, which was fantastic. It was just that, what happened on the first day, Stuart?
Well, the first day was a lot of theory. Is that what you're referring to? We certainly didn't step out on the course very much.
The first day, Royal were sanding.
Was this a renovation work? Yes.
Royal were sanding their floors in readiness for the President's Cup that they were to be holding about 7 months later. So there were a lot of headaches in that first day, and not much was heard. I had to shout, and Brian and other Brian had to shout it. Oh, Adam was there as well. So that was a bit painful, but we got through it, and that was where we first met. And then ever since then, Stuart, you've shall I say pestered? Was that too harsh? You've pestered me had many questions of the rules of golf. I'm not sure I'm the best one to learn from, but together we have definitely learnt a lot more, especially with Stuart, if you don't know, helps me out with all the videos that I put up on YouTube, which is just a fantastic resource for everyone out there. And I really appreciate all the work that he does for that. And with that, Stuart, I believe you do learn a lot in the process.
I think so. I think just, I do watch a lot of golf, and you obviously you watch it as well, and you send through, hey, I heard about, Dustin Johnson did this on the 7th hole, let's go and investigate further. And then I'm watching as well, and I see when things are, when there's some rules issues. So I think just seeing those rules situations, albeit a lot are very similar. There's a lot of red penalty area stuff and the like, but seeing those rule situations, and then I have to go to the book. Now I will go to the book and I'll read word for word exactly that scenario. So you can't avoid learning a little bit more every single incident you see. So it's been incredible over the last 12 months to have done all those videos, researched, the commentary that you would say, or maybe I've done 2 or 3, to research all those and word them all up, read the rule book again, gives you a reason to go back into that book and just refresh. It's been invaluable. And I did pester you. Absolutely, I did.
So that's a great introduction there. And thank you, Stuart. And I want to find out a little bit more about you. But as always, this time in the segment, we have to run through the answer for the previous GRQ OTW. Stuart, you probably remember it off by hand, but I don't want to embarrass you if you don't. This was asked by Jerry Duffy, or it was asked by myself. Jerry Duffy sent it through after Fraser and I interviewed him. So Fraser mistakenly runs over Blakey's ball with his car, embedding it. Blakey, showing his rules knowledge, says under the embedded ball rule, he can drop the ball within 1 club length from the relief reference point, which is immediately behind the ball. Was Blakey correct? I'm sure, Stuart, this is a different Blakey. The answer is no. The definition, if you read the definition of embedded ball, a ball exactly. A ball can't be embedded by someone driving over it. So a ball was embedded from a previous stroke, and obviously, so it's just can't be embedded by someone driving over it. It's simply a rule, whether it's in Rule 9.4, Rule 9.5, or Rule 9.6 situation, where the ball has been moved by either the player, the cart, or opponent, or an outside influence. Now, if Fraser's obviously not the player, I was the player. If he was my partner, I would get the penalty unless we were searching for it. If he was my opponent, then he would get the penalty unless we were searching for it. And if it was an outside influence, i.e. another player in a stroke play event, then there's no penalty, and I just replace the ball, as is most cases with a ball that's been rolled over or run over. The lie most likely has been altered, and so you would place it in the nearest most similar lie within a club length. Right, getting the GRQ OTW 51 out of the way, and we'll hear from number 52 from Stuart at the end of the show. But Stuart, welcome aboard the Golf Rules Questions podcast. You are an avid listener, as you are important to the Golf Rules Questions Corporation.
Team GRQ.
Team GRQ. All probably 4 of us, I'd say, plus many, many more. I mean, you mentioned about you watching golf and finding a situation, or I watch golf and I find a situation. A lot of the time, it's someone that is watching the golf that I know, one of my followers, subscribers, etc., and they'll send me something and say, "Hey, what happened here?" And I'll send it to Stuart and go, "Stuart, did you get this? Did you record it? Did you see this?" And he'll go, give me an hour, give me a day, give me a week, but I'll get it for you. And really what we're doing is just trying to educate everyone out there as we are educating ourselves. So, really, really important member of the GRQ team. You are, Stuart. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So what do you do apart from help me and make GRQs that much better? What do you do yourself? And then how did you get into golf? Give us a little bit of an explanation on who Stuart McPhee is.
Sure. So work-wise, involved in markets, financial markets, whether they be stock markets, currency markets, and I trade myself, have a retirement fund, superannuation fund. But in the last 20 years, I've consulted to countless brokerage firms and companies around the world, in fact, mainly outside of Australia rather than in, just helping them with, media work, appearing on TV for them, representing their brand, or doing market analysis, or, commentary, or staff training, or client training. So I've been doing that for a long time, have a book out on the subject. Yeah, what that does though is it gives me a lot of time to do other things that I have a great interest in. So, trading can be a 12 hours a day job if you want it to be. I never wanted it to be like that. So that provides me a lot of time, which has allowed me to volunteer in a lot of different organisations, whether it be my children's school or at golf clubs, or helping someone like yourself, something that I have an interest in. So how did I get into golf? So I've only been playing competition golf now for 6 or 7 years, like membership competition golf. But I had, growing up and as a young adult, been invited to the occasional just social hit, corporate day, although there wasn't very many of those. I had played golf, but it was like once every 12 months. But I remember just really enjoying it. And like a lot of people in your 20s and 30s, you're busy doing other things like establishing a career and having a family and looking after children. And that's sort of the time when a lot of people don't have the time to spend 5 hours, on a golf course or at a golf club. So that was me as well. So I remember driving home after Christmas holidays once back to Melbourne, and we're on the road for 2 days. And I just said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go and join a golf club. Because if I don't do it, it'll never happen and other things will get in the way. So I just said, when we get home, it was January, I'm just going to go and find a golf club. So I went driving around and saw a few clubs in the local area, found one, thought it was a lot better than all the others, and said about how do I go and join a golf club. Never done it before. Had no idea. And that's really the beginning of it. And joined this golf club, and I can keep going if you want. There's a lot more to this story, but that's where I got into golf. It was just a bit of social once every 12 months, and then finally going, if I don't make this change, I'll never play. And every time I played socially or corporate, I just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the walk, the chat, the surrounds. Just golf courses can be some beautiful places, and I really enjoyed that. So that's what finally I just said, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go and join a club and go and play and go and enjoy it.
So how often do you play now, Stuart?
So since that time, so I've been playing comp golf now for 6 or 7 years. So I play regularly twice a week, every Wednesday, every Saturday mornings, regularly twice a week.
Nice. What's your handicap at the moment?
I think after yesterday's round, I got to 9 point something.
Is that the lowest?
No, I didn't think you'd be asking me this. My lowest is earlier this year, 8 point something, 8.6, 8.5, something like that. Then, of course, we go into winter. And I guess something that I didn't appreciate early on was how fortunate we are that we can actually keep playing, during winter. And sure, it's a bit wet and muddy and cold, but a lot of places in the world cannot. And I didn't realise that until I started listening to some of your podcasts, I think, and learning more about golf around the world. So, invariably those handicaps go out during winter and the colder and the ball doesn't travel as far and gets caught embedded in the fairway more and doesn't run. So it's all happened this year though. The shackles of, office at a club, captain and the like came off me, and all of a sudden you can relax a bit and enjoy your golf a bit more. And sure enough, I've hit my lowest handicap this year.
So how did you get an enjoyment or just an interest in the rules of golf?
So if I just backtrack a little bit, so because I'd never been a member of a club and I'd never played competition golf, I had this vision in my head that if you're on the first tee at a club, there's like 40 or 50 people standing around waiting to have their turn to tee off. And I must have seen a photo of some corporate day, and I just saw 50 people standing around the first tee. And I thought, I'm not remotely interested in being in that person with their ball on the tee in the teeing area, ready to start a hole when there's 50 people watching it. I do not want that. So I thought, no, I need to become a little bit better at golfer. So for the first 3 years of membership, I didn't play any comps. I didn't know any members. I didn't have a handicap. I went out to this course, 15 minutes drive away. I went 4 or 5 times a week and played 9 holes or 18 on the weekend. I'd play 18 holes. Just hitting off the tee, and in the middle of the fairway, I'd drop 3 golf balls and hit them all to the green. And then I'd putt out all 3. And then I'd go to the next hole and do the same thing again. Hit 3 balls to a par 3. And, that's how that started, thinking, I'm getting okay at this. Admittedly, no one's watching, but by the 3rd time, the 3 balls in the middle of the fairway, sure enough, one of them would be okay, hit the green or something. And so I think I'm getting okay at this. And so that's where I started in golf. And I'd go out there on a Saturday and Sunday afternoon at these courses, and all the morning comps are all done. So I'd have this course to myself. And I thought, this is just, it's the course you and I played earlier in the year. I'd be out there, just beautiful surroundings, and I'm the only person within a kilometre. And I'm just playing golf. And it could not be more relaxing. So I was really enjoying that. And just, as I said, just dropping a few balls, give myself a few gimmies, and I was just enjoying my golf. So then I was at a golf club, this same golf club, which was going through some issues, which is putting it mildly. Just with the way, and the club, the way this club was run and just ownership and management. It was just having some difficulties and with memberships. And I am a person, always have been, I'd like to think I always will be. I'm always willing to put my hand up and just volunteer and help, which is obviously why I've come to help you. You know, I like helping and being involved and making a contribution. So this club going through some issues, I thought I would like to play my role. And I approached the captain and the president at the time. And they said, yeah, we'd love to help, you know, with any help we can get, blah, 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 that'd be great. We'll keep you in mind. And towards the end of that year, the elections were coming up for the members committee. And so I thought, this is my way of getting formally, officially involved on the committee and doing my bit and helping out. So I emailed, I don't remember which order, but Alan and Greg are their names, and many people who are going to watch this will know who they are. So I approached one of them individually, or both of them individually, and said, elections are coming up for the committee. Would you mind nominating me, please? Because I don't know any other members. And both of them came back and said no. And so it was no, because I think, you know, I would like you to get, start playing in some competitions, get to know other members. And then I think in due course, you absolutely be more than welcome on the committee. And I thought, oh, wow, I just wanted to help. Both these guys have said no. I don't remember which order I asked them. First person said no, so I went to the other and going, oh, what do I do now? Sure enough, one of them was actually running for captain. And so he was going to be vacating his position on the committee. And so one day I'm out there and there's a resident who lives there who's a long distant twice removed cousin that I'd not seen in a long time. And so I got his number or something. Oh, we'll have to have a hit, something like that. Anyway, there was this vacancy on the committee. And I said, I'm going to get in there. I'm going to get onto this committee. And filled out a nomination form. I got this long distant twice removed cousin who lived there to sign it, to nominate it. I'll get my neighbour to second it. No problem. I know I'll submit it for you. Sure enough, the guy going for captain gets club captain. The incumbent misses out altogether. Sure enough, there's an open spot. I slot right in. Don't even have a handicap yet. Don't know any members, and now I'm on the members committee. I wouldn't call it a coup, but in a way, I had a bit of a smirk on my face. I felt great. People have said, no, I don't want you on the committee yet. And here I've made my way on the committee. So I'm getting to your question about rules. But of course, people thought this was hilarious, that I was on the members committee and didn't even have a handicap. So I think one of the first things the president said to me was, you need to get a handicap. And I'm going, how do I even do that? Well, you know, you need to submit 3 cards or 5 cards or whatever. And sure enough, the captain arranged for my very first hit for a card with the president. And I went out there with one other guy, Don, and had one of the worst rounds of golf I've ever had. Suffered from stage fright, you know, and anyway, put my 3 cards in, started off 20, you know, playing off 20 plus. And there's a lot more to that story, but I think that's enough for now. That I still haven't answered your question about getting involved in the rules of golf. So to that very question, I knew you could use a tee in the teeing area. I knew you had to mark your ball on the green before you picked it up. And I probably knew you couldn't ground your club in a bucket. Beyond that, I didn't know a lot. And so now I'm playing regularly in comps, and I'm playing with 3 other guys, and they sort of know the rules, and they seem to know what they're doing. They seem to know how to drop out of probably then was a lateral water hazard, a red penalty area. They seem to know how to do that. So I'm now asking questions. You know, I'm in a bind. I'm in a situation. What do I do? And the real motivation for me, and I've told you this before, the motivation for me to learn the rules was when I asked my group, hey guys, what do I do here? My ball's done this. What do I do? And I would get 3 different answers.
Yeah.
3 different answers. And I thought, there has to be a better way of doing this. How am I getting, these guys are regulars, they've been playing golf for a long time, and I'm getting not 2 the same, and the other guy not sure. I'm getting 3 different answers on how I proceed. I thought there has to be a better way. So that was probably my first inkling. Well, there's clearly a demand here where you need to have people who know the rules. And these 3 guys, and I couldn't tell you who they were because this probably happened more than once, where I got 3 different answers. I'm going, there has to be a better way than this. That was probably the catalyst, was me finding out then for sure if that situation happened, which of those 3 was correct, if in fact any of them were correct in their ruling. So that was probably the catalyst for me learning about, there needs to be a better way. And I'm going to set about a course to learn a bit more.
So why didn't you just choose the best option that you thought at the time and think, yeah, that sounds the best for me?
I probably did. Who knows? But, a situation I've often found is that there are some people who think they know the rules, and they probably do reasonably well, and they know all the common situations. I sometimes see when you get 3 different answers, it's like the person will give you the answer. They're almost listening out for the tone of the other potential rulings and how confident they are or otherwise. And I think sometimes when they see a lack of confidence in the rulings from the other 2, that increases their confidence. And all of a sudden no, it's definitely, you could definitely take a free drop from that and you can proceed and you can do this, because they listen to the other 2 answers and they weren't that convincing. Like, they didn't seem like they were sure of what they were talking about. Now I feel a bit more confident in my own answer. I'm going to say it again louder and with more conviction, and that'll definitely be how we proceed. So I don't know what I did at the time. I can't think of too many specific situations, but that was generally the catalyst, was when you look at people and they're doing this, they're going, I don't know what you can do. And of course, no one, not many people at membership at club level proceed under 20.1C3 and play 2 balls in stroke play. That you just don't see that happening. It probably should happen more, but it doesn't happen a lot. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen anyone in all my club membership golf proceed under that rule. And yet it probably should.
When was the first time you learned about that rule?
It wasn't then, when I was getting 3 different answers. Probably I had heard about it before I did my level 2 course. I'd heard that it was a thing, and yeah, but it certainly wasn't in the early days, that's for sure.
So what year was this when you first started with the competitions?
2016. Yeah.
Okay, so under the previous rules, and then what was your process for working out how you were going to educate yourself on the rules of golf?
Yeah, so I didn't know you at that point. I didn't even know the body you worked for at the time, had people, there to help club golfers with the rules.
Is that because of their amazing marketing program?
You're setting me up there. I really can't tell you why that was the case, but I probably just went to, it was definitely my initial, it was club level. I had seen other guys, these guys who talk with more confidence and louder than the others. I thought, these guys know. You could just tell they've been in this situation 50 times. They know how to take a drop from red stakes. They know how to do this and do. So I went to them, and I'd have emails in my outbox, sent items of, hey guys, this situation happened today. I've got no idea. This is how we proceeded, but I still don't know. And then there was a level 2 guy, an experienced guy at the club. So I started pestering him. So this is before I started pestering you. So, I was badgering him with questions, and I was very,
He's pretty good with his rules. So that's a good person to go to.
Yes. So you know who I'm talking about. So, but I was very, I believe in, with the eyes and ears and mouth, you use them in proportion, right? So you've only got one mouth, but you've got 2 eyes and 2 ears. So I was very, very open to, I want to learn as much as I can. And when someone says, no, you can't proceed that way, you need to do this, I wanted to learn that, and I wanted to do the right thing, which is all of the whole conversation about why I think rules is important. But I can think of, some scenarios I wrote down where, taking a preferred lie, maybe just a mud rule, handspan or scorecard, because it's a mud on your ball. And, early days, I'd sort of just grab my iron and just drag the ball over a little bit and just put it into that relief area. And someone said to me, oh, no, that's not a good look. You shouldn't move your ball with your club. You should mark your ball, pick it up, give it a clean if you want, and place it on, where you're placing it in the relief area. So I was moving. So I heard that and I thought, okay, I'm not going to do that ever again. I remember vividly on the Henley course on the 16th tee, putting a ball that could have easily been lost. And I just simply said, guys, I'm going to hit another one. And I remember a guy, his name was Bruce, and he played off 30 plus. And he said, are you playing a provisional? I said, yeah, it's a provisional. He goes, no, you say provisional. And I said, done. I'll do that from now on, because I didn't do that. And so there was all these little situations along the way. And I think of another one vividly on the 7th hole at St. John, the par 3. And I was just short of the green on the fringe. And the guy says, can you mark that it's in my way? I need to putt through there. I said, yeah, no problems. I can do that. Can I? Yeah, put a marker off the green. Sure enough, put a marker down, pick my ball up. And sure enough, I'm doing this and, cleaning it. And, it's got a bit of mud on it, dirt on it. Oh, this will be better for when I putt it. And afterwards, we're walking off. He didn't make a scene about it. This is Steve. He didn't make a scene about it because you can't do that. You're marking it for interference. He said, you need to do, I've got a ball here. He said, you need to, hold it. I always hold it between this finger and the thumb and hold it, extend it from your body. so it's obvious. So it's obvious to everyone you're not cleaning it, right? So I thought, perfect. This guy knows what he's talking about. I'm going to do that. So I was picking up all these things along the way without any formal training or pestering anyone. This guy says, always say provisional. I always used to start saying provisional. Hold your ball out when you're marking it for interference. I started doing that. Taking relief, I didn't move it with my club, So all these little things I picked up along the way, I started doing them because I was open to learning how to do things properly.
It's quite interesting, actually. The first thing that comes to mind there, because a lot of people, the first person that they hear from about what the rule should be or what the procedure should be is who they believe for life. And then it's very hard to change their mind after that. So the amount of times that I've heard that you must hold the ball between your thumb and forefinger, I can't even count it on my fingers and toes, and probably your fingers and toes as well, Stuart. There is no rule that says you have to hold it.
No, of course
between,
no.
But this is the thing, though, and I'm not pointing anything out for your rules knowledge, but did you at any point, have you ever been tripped up in that situation where someone's told you something and you've gone, yep, sweet, and then you've gone somewhere else and someone has told you something different? And I don't mean in the group of 4 and 3 people had differing opinions. I mean, someone has told you something, and then 2 weeks later, someone's told you exactly the opposite or slightly different from
absolutely
the situation. And then how do you deal with that? What is your first thing to do once that happens?
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely happened. And I've realized what that guy told me wasn't right at all. He would have staked his life on the fact that it was right. But that's how confident he was. But I have since found out that wasn't correct at all. So I think that's when, this is back in the early days. I hadn't done, level 1 course. I hadn't done the level 2. I hadn't met you, hadn't done any formal rules training, but I was picking up stuff. So, I mean, no one came to me saying, hey, Stuart, what do I do in this situation? That is for certain, right? But I was just building upon this knowledge. And yeah, I think I remember once where I emailed the guy, where I had a situation of a provisional. I did something and
Peter, right?
Yeah, and I emailed about 6 people. It was the president, the captain, Peter was one of them, a guy on the committee who's been an elite amateur golfer. And then that's when I realised that just because you're an elite amateur golfer doesn't mean you're not. But I assumed that this guy plays off plus X. This guy knows the rules. He's an elite golfer with a wealth of experience playing golf, playing tournaments, playing events. This guy's going to know the rules. That's when I learned, no, that's not the case at all. And I'm not saying there's not elite amateur golfers who don't know the rules well. What I'm saying is there's no guarantee that they know the rules at all. And you would have far more experience of that than I would.
Yeah, I mean, I had someone on Instagram tell me that their local pro said there's only red penalty areas now. And he probably said water hazard.
Probably.
There is no such thing as yellow anymore. I was like, haven't you watched the Masters recently? So yeah,
I think the problem with that is a lot of courses don't have yellow penalty areas; they only have red. But
and a lot got rid of them. They changed their yellow into red, which you're more than welcome to do. But there's still a lot. Have you got any yellow penalty areas at Gardeners Run?
No, so they're about to potentially put in I hope I'm not spilling the beans here, but they're considering putting a water feature across one of the holes. And of course I play with, and I can't finish this without mentioning our mutual friend, Ray Seddon, who's the captain there at Gardeners Run, who's a fellow rules nerd and I play with regularly. And when he talked about that, I said, oh, you'll be putting yellow stakes there. And he's gone, yes, I guess we'll have to put yellow stakes there because there are no yellow stakes on that course. There's quite a few red, but not yellow. And I said, well, my understanding of yellow stakes or yellow penalty area is when the challenge of the hole is actually to go over that water, then it should be a yellow penalty area.
I can't even think of what hole that is. I don't answer that. Don't answer that.
Okay.
Well,
so
we don't want Ray coming at us and saying, mate, you can't drop bombs about Gardeners Run on the GRQ podcast.
Exactly. And I saw him yesterday, and I said, "Oh, hopefully, I'll be doing this chat with Blakey soon." But no, we don't want to spill the beans on anything.
There's actually, interestingly enough, talking about red penalty areas, where I've just started working Spring Valley, there's a penalty area that's both red and yellow, which I look forward to doing in a video. An upcoming video.
So is it red for one hole and yellow for another?
Yeah, it's red for the 12th hole and then it's yellow for the 13th hole. Have you played Springville?
Once, yeah.
Yeah, it's a fantastic course. It's actually got a lot of potential there. So
beautiful.
I
used to, if I can just finish on these rule situations, I used a word just before without even thinking about it, but one of the best bits of advice I got early on with all these rule situations, certainly when you're playing match play, but in any stroke play as well. The guy said to me, when you are discussing rules on the course right there and there's something happening, start your sentence with, it is my understanding. And I reckon it was one of the best bits of advice I got. It is my understanding that you can do that or can take relief or, and this is before I learnt the rules, it is my understanding, because what you are saying is not that you are correct, not that they're wrong, it's just what you believe the rule to be. And therefore it's it doesn't offend anybody. It doesn't put anyone offside. You could be completely wrong, but that's what your understanding of that rule is. And I think it's one of the best, and I can thank Colin for that. That's one of the best bits of advice I ever got, was start that with, it is my understanding that.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
I like that. I like to ask questions rather than, and you and I are working an event soon together, which is going to be a lot of fun, the Vic PGA. So we actually have to do this. I think I'll try and get this out before we go and work that. So we might have to do a recap on how it went after it.
Yeah, good.
It might be a bit of an eye opener for you. I'll tell you what.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
My biggest tip is just be ready to look at your clock or your stopwatch every 5 seconds, because that's basically what it is. But then the Vic PGA is a pro-am event, so you go and tell the pros to hurry up, and they'll say, "Oh, it's the amateurs; they're the ones that are going slow." So that's always an interesting conversation. But so we'll be doing that tournament together, which will be a lot of fun. But I'm
very much looking forward to it. So if I can just finish on that point, if I might, sorry, at the club level.
Go for it.
If I can just finish on that point about, I don't say that it's my understanding. Like, I played with a guy yesterday, it was a stroke round, and this guy didn't have a very good day. And suffice to say, his net score was 95. So there were 3 rule situations yesterday where the first one was on the 7th hole, his ball was unplayable, and he looked at the two of us. He didn't know I knew the rules, because I don't like to say, oh, by the way, guys, you didn't say that on the first tee. By the way, guys, if you have any questions, just ask me today. I'm more than happy to help. But he straight away on the 7th, he's gone, oh, look, I need to take an unplayable. What can I do again? And I've just gone, without even thinking, I said, you've got 3 options. Go back to the tee, take lateral lead 2 club lengths, or go back on the line. 19.2 if you're interested. I just straight away, I know he's not interested in the rule number, but I just straight away knew there are your 3 options under unplayable. He then on the 17th hole, just to rub salt into the wound, having an absolute horrible day, hits a wrong ball out of the rough and sees his original ball literally a metre away. So this one, he's had it hit it out into the fairway, and then he's hit this other one out. I think, he's just put 2 balls from the rough and he's walked out into the fairway. He goes, oh, I hit a wrong ball. What's the penalty? So again, rather than, oh, it's my understanding, I've just gone straight away. Any strokes at the wrong ball don't count. There's a 2-stroke penalty, general penalty. You're now lying full. Rule 6.3, if you're interested.
And go and pick up the other person's ball and take it back.
So that to me is, I love, you ask about motivation, what got me interested in the rules. I probably really still haven't answered that. But to fast forward, I love being in that position when the guy goes, what do I do if an unplayable? What do I do for a wrong ball? And we all just looking at each other doing this. Oh, is there some other guy close we can ask? I love just in my small group being able to say, no, this is exactly your options, or this is exactly what the penalty is, and knowing, and they're obviously more common scenarios, but I love personally being in that position where I know exactly what the answer is. I know exactly what the ruling is, and I can help just right away. Speed of play is always an issue. Just straight away tell them and let's move on, as opposed to it's my understanding, which was very, very appropriate at the time and was a very useful way of having that conversation. But now I love just being in that position where I know what the ruling is.
Very good. Very good. Have you ever had someone disagree with you when and I'm not talking about our videos?
Not that I can think of. No. No, I think, I said this to someone the other day about doing a level 2 course, and that's where you and I first met. And you talked about learning stuff on that course. You didn't learn that much on that course. You stood up there, delivered your little segments on Rule 8 or Rule 10 or whatever you got up. And one of the things that impressed me on that course, and there's about 30 on that course, and now I vividly remember all the noise going on in the room next door. Fortunately, they weren't doing all that work in our room. They were doing it next door, but it was still pretty loud. But I remember, and you'll remember this, how many questions I asked, and you'll remember where I sat. I sat right next to the projector, right at the front row in the center, because I wanted to be front and center and ask lots of questions. But what impressed me on that day was I was asking lots of questions that weren't covered, but they were related to that rule. And what impressed me the most was if you didn't know the answer, you had it within a minute because you knew exactly where to look. And that really impressed me. That's the beauty of knowing, rules 1 through 24 and knowing what each of those ones are, and knowing that, 14.7 is that, or 14.2 is that, and knowing exactly how quickly you can go there. But one of the things about the level 2 course was, and I didn't appreciate this at the time, I go back into Clubland, having just done the level 2 course, and I had a pretty good score, and I go back in almost with a bit of a head wobble, almost a bit of a spring in my step, that I now know the rules better than almost anyone else at the club. And I'm, dare I say it, a rules guru, because I just did the level 2 course. And you don't appreciate at the time how little you still, how little you actually know, and how much more there is still to know beyond that level 2 course. And the level 2 course is a very thorough course. The exam is not easy if you've never done rules before. But you go back thinking, I don't need to know anymore. I'm level 2 qualified. But I think it would be very easy for someone to walk into a club and go, I'm set. Hey guys, got any rules questions? I'm here. I'd be happy to help, not realizing how little you do know relative to how much there is still to know. And it's only if you commit to learning more and more and more, do you actually now start to open up, wow, there's just so much more to learn that I actually didn't realize when I did my level 2 course and walked out with my blue ribbon and thought I knew it all.
Yeah, I mean, it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah, I know you and I have spoken about this.
It's my favorite chart in the whole world, where you think you're an expert before you really research a topic. Then once you start researching the topic, you realize how little you know. And then over a long period of time, you work out, what the actual answers are. And the funny thing about that is then they go and change the rules in the book and you've got to relearn them all over again.
I think just if I say that point again about how much I didn't know, was when you and I met up for a coffee or something, last year or something, and I was captain at this golf club, and the 10th hole on a St John course has a yellow penalty area just before the green. You and I did a video there, just before the green. And there is a lot of grass and a lot of earth within the confines of that yellow penalty area. So your ball could be in the yellow penalty area and very hittable still, but on the green side. And I said to you, as a time-saving measure, it'd be great if your ball goes into the yellow penalty area, but still a long way away and you can't see whether it's playable or not. It'd be great, because it's a yellow penalty area and you've got to come back to the other side of the water. It'd be great to be able to play a provisional to simply save time. Because if you walk around the bridge, come across to the green, look in the yellow penalty area and go, well, I can't find it, or I can find it, but I'm not going to be able to hit that. But now I know I can't hit it. Oh, hang on, what's my relief options? Oh, previous place played or back on the line. Oh, so I've got to go all the way back across that bridge, all the way back to the fairway. And I simply asked you, as a time-saving measure, because we know you can't hit a provisional when your ball's in the penalty area, could you adopt something that would allow you to have that option on that hole, for example? Now, before I'd finished answering the question, you had already flicked through your phone. Here I'm thinking, asking your girlfriend to bail you out with a phone call or something, and you're flicking through your phone through the app and going, there you go, there's the model local rule you can use.
B1.
I haven't even finished answering the question, asking the question, and you already found the answer. And I saw that as, well, that's the standard. Here I am, my level 2 course, but no, there's just so much more. What about all the model local rules, all the committee procedures, all those things? And you knew that straight away. And I haven't even finished asking the question, and you knew, and you immediately said to me, I don't like it as a local rule, but it is an option available to you, right?
That's true.
I thought that was, but I thought that was the standard. I thought, wouldn't it be great? There's just so much more you could learn and know about the rules beyond that level 2 course.
What is that's B3 or B1? No, I think it's B3.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot about it, but
well, I should know it off by heart, but I there's some that I just get tripped up on. It's just the number. Yeah, it's B3.
I know D7. I know D7 very well now.
Oh, you learnt that one now because of that ruling.
Well, on the European tour, they have it obviously, but
yeah, B3. Yeah, the playing a provisional if your ball's gone, but it's only a local rule. Yeah, but there's a couple that you always know, like E5 is that new local rule for stroke and distance that I hate as well. F5 is
preferred lines.
No, it's sprinkler heads near the green. E3 is preferred lies. E2 is cleaning ball, and E1 is dropping zones. But anyway, it's a great point you make. We keep learning. How many times could I say keep? We just keep learning the rules of golf, and I keep learning. And as I said, then you learn it, and then they slightly change. It's an ongoing process, an ongoing passion. It can be a job for some. You like giving other people technical knowledge, educating them. That's what you do for a living. And now you're you're really passionate about educating people on a sport that you absolutely love. It's really interesting, Peter, who we talked about, one of the good things that makes him a really good rules person referee is that if he doesn't know or he's not sure, he'll ask us or ask someone higher than him, someone who he thinks knows the rules better than him. And this is an important thing, that what you're really doing is you're asking someone who has a little bit more experience than you, is usually the case. But that doesn't mean that person should necessarily know the rule better than you. I've said before that some of the players on the European Tour and the PGA Tour will know some of the most strangest rules, situations that you'll come across, and then they won't know the most basic, common rules that you'll come across, because they've been involved in that strange ruling. But the common ones, they just, their brain is just thinking about the shot rather than remembering that you can take a drop off the path, and then you're not allowed to be standing on it when you're wanting to make that shot or whatever. You got to take complete relief is what I'm trying to say. But that's one of the things that makes referees or just people interested in the rules better or good, is because they actually know what they don't know. They're unsure. When they're 95% sure, they still have this 5% unsuredness. Not a word. Either there, but they'll ask someone that they believe should know. And so if people ask me, and I 100%, if I've got any element of doubt, and so you'll ask me questions, if I've got an element of doubt, I will ask someone else. I can't be giving you wrong information. And so if someone, unplayable balls, and it is a good one, because we all should know that one. And it's easy. It's just back to your last place play. Just what you said, last place play, back on the line, 2 clubbing. So that's an easy one. But, wrong ball, there'll be a few people that wouldn't know wrong ball. So the fact that you can, rein that off, that's easy for that person. You've helped them out. But when you've got one, like an incorrectly substituted ball, might be a little bit more difficult for some people. And so they might need to, even me might need to either refer to the rule book or ask someone that they knows it better than them.
So one thing I learned having done the course, and then beyond that, is I strongly believe that if you do not keep up with the rules and maintain your knowledge and keep on top of them, you lose it very, very quickly. You lose that knowledge very quickly. I strongly believe that. If you've done the level 2 course 4 years ago and have done nothing since, then I just don't think you absolutely must keep at it, and you must maintain it. Not only grow your knowledge and develop them, but you've got to at least maintain it, which is why, as nerdy as it is, I do a rules quiz every day. It's just that repetitive, just in your head, what the definition of a wrong ball is, what a in play means, what a movable obstruction is, whatever the definition is. I strongly believe that you've just got to keep at it, which is why I did, and how you and I eventually got to doing this together, was here I am wanting to learn more. I might have sent you a question about something. You've gone, here's a video I've done on it. And I've gone, didn't even know this existed, So I've started watching more and more videos. I put it in my weekly to-do list. I'm going to go and check out what other videos you've done. Then you start doing the podcasts. And you remember this, but on one of those podcasts, you said, I might need some assistance doing some video work and getting situations. And I'm sure you were after some first-year university student to come along and help you. But I've contacted you, said, that's what I'd like to help. I'm really passionate about this. I want to help you. And I remember having a chat with you and Ross. And as I said, you're probably wanting to speak to some 19-year-old with limited rules knowledge, but just would do all the video stuff for you. And I put my hand up. Why? Because I had a real interest and passion for continuing to learn and get better, and learn what I sort of discover how much I still didn't know. That's what I wanted to do.
So we've talked about the important like how we've got into the rules and some of the situations, but really what it all comes back to is one question, and I want to put that to you. Why do you think the rules of golf are so important?
To answer that question, I'll start with something else.
Can I just ask first, because you and I have chatted, and I just know that you may have played with some people along the way that couldn't give 2 hoots about the rules of golf, and they turn up every week and they still play their game. So why do you think it matters? Why do you think the rules of golf are so important? And how do you think some people like those people are able to ignore it?
First thing I'll say is, you held your book up before. Here's my official guide here. And it's, I just checked it the other day. It's like 500 plus pages. And one of the things I find fascinating about the game of golf is that it might be one of the most complex set of rules for any game in existence. I'm not saying it's hard to officiate. I think there are other games that are very difficult to officiate. But so far as a complicated set of rules, I think golf is right up there. And I think many would agree with that. And what I find fascinating is, as complicated as the rules are, we expect individuals to be self-officiating. So we expect players to officiate themselves in one of the most complicated set of rules you'll come across. And I find, I don't know if that's a definition of irony, but I just find that fascinating. That yes, this is a really complicated book and there's so much in there. And by the way, we need you to officiate yourselves. And I find that fascinating as a concept but we expect all these players to know the rules. But coming back to your question, I think it's very much in my nature. One, I think I have a military background. So I'm a graduate of Duntroon, Royal Military College. So I was an army officer full-time. And in a military environment, attention to detail is critical. Attention to detail, attention to details. Attention to detail is important because the consequences can be quite severe. And without being too dramatic, they can be fatal, right? So attention to detail is really, really important. So, well, that's what the rules are about. They're very precisely written. There's very few areas that are open to interpretation. There's some, but not many. They're very precisely written. I believe if you're going to do something, do it right. And so I firmly believe that. My nature is I see things very literal. And I don't think that's necessarily a good thing, because I think there's a lot of things in life that are not black and white, but I do see things very black and white and very literal. I take things very literally. And I think in the rules of golf, black and white is a good thing, because I think being precise is a good thing. Why is it important? I just think if you're going to do it right. And if you're going to play golf and put in a little bit of money and have competition and prizes at the end, then you could say this better than me, but there's an expectation that you've got to protect the field. Everybody else is expecting you to play by those same set of rules when you're in a comp. And of course, you and I have also said before, if you're playing social golf, you do whatever you damn well please. I don't care what you do. But as soon as you're in a competition and others are playing on that same course, there's the same set of rules. There is an expectation that everyone else is playing by those same set of rules. And I don't know if you wanted to talk about this, but as club captain, I took that as very much a very important responsibility of mine. Is we're going to run golf competitions all the time. Well, I think they need to be run correctly, and they need to be done with integrity. And you have an expectation that every player in that field, whether it be 20 or 220, you expect them all to play by the rules. But I think it all comes down to if you're going to do something, do it right. That's all. Do it properly. And that's just, again, I'm very black and white. That's how I see it. If you're going to play golf in a competition, do it right, do it properly.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, for me, golf is the set of boundaries, and as weird as some of the rules might be, if you play within those boundaries on this course, that course, then you can compare your scores. So for one, it's your personal best, because as golf is always, you're trying to beat your personal best. And then two, I think you've hit the nail on the head that if your result is going to affect someone else, then you have to play by the exact same rules. So yeah, I really like the way you've explained that there.
And just on that, if I may, that was one of the challenges I had as captain, was if you ever had a rule situation and you confronted someone or were discussing a situation, how often you would get the expression of, "Oh, come on, mate, we're not playing for sheep stations." How often you would hear that? "Oh, come on, we're just out here to have a hit. We're just out here to enjoy our golf." And that was always the fallback of, "Oh, why are you taking it so seriously? Why?" And I could tell you numerous situations specific situations where it was, "Oh, come on, we're not playing for sheep stations." And I would think, no, but you are playing for something.
What about the other day?
You're in a competition. Don't give me the sheep stations routine.
The other day,
competition, everyone else expects you to play by the rules.
The other day, you and I were playing at Eildon, and we filmed some fantastic videos there. And I think we're on the 8th hole, and I hit my ball way left. Oh, actually, we're on the 7th hole. I hit my ball left, lost it, went back to the tee, and then we found it after I'd hit my tee.
Oh yes, I remember that hole.
That was horrible. Anyway, the 8th hole, I hit a
hole.
Yeah, thanks. Won the match though. So on the 8th,
good one.
on the 8th hole, I hit it left as well. Nearly killed those people that were doing some work on the course.
First green. Yeah.
And we walked up there, and my ball was plugged in the GUR.
Yes.
Because it was a hole dug by a greenkeeper, even
massive
though it wasn't,
piece of earth moved. Yep.
Even though it wasn't marked, so that was fine.
Mm-hmm.
And in the time that you're explaining to him that I did something in the rules, I took a drop from that GUR, and then I go, oh no, I've got to take a drop now from the wrong putting green. And then you sort of moved away to go to your ball, because now that I'd found my ball, etc. And the couple, who were a lovely couple doing some work on the course, as a lot of country courses have, volunteer greenkeepers, etc. And I sort of had a chat to them while you were over there on the other side playing your ball, and they said, "Oh, we don't, I hope you've enjoyed Eildon." And I go, "Yeah, it's lovely. It's fantastic. We don't really play for sheep stations up here." I meant to tell you at the time, because I couldn't believe it was exactly one of your quotes. I was like, yeah, they've just quoted the old, "Don't play for sheep stations up here." Well, I mean, what rules do you play by then? If is everyone doing the same thing or not?
Exactly. And I remember when I had done the rules course, then become club captain, someone said to me, "Don't be that person where other people don't want to play with. Don't be that person." And I was very, very mindful of that. As club captain, I actually sought out to play with as many different members as I could. So I actually would arrange games 2 or 3 weeks in advance, and I'd book us all in, and just as a way of meeting other members. But he said to me, "Don't become that person where people don't want to play with you." And I was very, very mindful of that. I remember vividly a situation where this very same yellow penalty area on St John, 10th hole, ball's gone in the water, just kaplunk, as known or virtually certain it's in the water in the yellow penalty area. And this guy, who's been playing golf longer than I've been alive and knows the rules very well, and is definitely a man of principles, and he just dropped his ball a little bit closer to the yellow penalty area from where he just played, but just dropped it in the fairway. And I thought, he is not playing anywhere near where he should be playing his ball from, right? I'm not going to ping him for 14.7. I'm going to say something. So I never wanted to be that person you can't do that. What are you doing? etc. I never wanted to take that attitude. So I simply, as politely as I could, said, "Excuse me, X, do you mind if I ask why you are playing from there, please?" And he goes, "Oh, well, because the ball went in the water." And I said, "That's fine. Assume you're using back on the line. Look where the flag stick is. Identify your point of entry. Your ball, you should be actually playing from 20 meters away, like way over here in the rough. Just simple drawing a line." He goes, "Oh, okay." So he picks his ball up and walks over there. And I could see he probably wasn't particularly happy with the fact that I just pulled him up, given that he's played golf longer than I've been alive. But I just could not, protecting the field, could not in good conscience, club captain, knowing the rules, allow him to play from the fairway, given that he wasn't anywhere near where he should have been playing from. And so, of course, he drops over in the rough, and someone else chimed in, "Oh, yeah, you should be going back this way. There's where you went in, and that's where the flag is over there." And so sure enough, he drops in, next one goes in the water. And now he's wiped the hole. And now all of a sudden, I just get this feeling, I'm the bad guy. Why did I even bother saying something? He's just out there to enjoy his golf. We're just here to have a good time. We're not playing for sheep stations. But here I am saying, well, I didn't say you can't play from there. I just said, "Sorry, can I just ask why you are playing from there?" I thought it was a less offensive, less confronting way of establishing the facts. So, and guess what? I think he was the very person who months earlier had said, "Don't be that guy who people don't want to play with." That was him. And I could just sense that he wasn't happy because he just put the other ball in the water. And I felt like I was the bad guy. And I think sometimes with the rules and at club level, you are often can be seen as the bad guy, but you shouldn't be the bad guy, but you can't help feel that way. And I don't think that's fair or right, but I think that can very much happen. There's a couple other situations I could go through where I was definitely the bad guy and I shouldn't have been, but I think certainly as captain and then knowing the rules, I think you need to protect everyone in the competition. You need to ensure the integrity of the competition, which is why I think rules are so important. If you can do it right, do it right.
Yeah, well, I mean,
the old sheep stations, eh?
Bobby Jones, great quote about rewarding someone for playing by the rules is the same as rewarding someone for not robbing a bank. Very much rings true in a situation like that. I'm sure Stuart, a man of his principles like that, was more disgusted at himself for being wrong than he was that you pulled him up, or he's disgusted himself for being pulled up by you, and the fact that he should have just done it correctly the first time. So I'm sure he didn't hold anything against you other than.
Well, there was another situation on that very same hole with that very same player involving that same yellow penalty area where he actually did play another ball from his previous place plays in the middle of the fairway and then found his ball in the yellow penalty area and looked at me standing on the other side of the ring. Can I play this? And I just instinctively said, well, you've already put another ball in play. He goes, oh, well, I didn't know if I'd be able to play this or not. And I'm going, but you put another ball in play. Like, did you even attempt to say provisional even though you couldn't? Did you even make the inkling that this was going to be a provisional ball? Oh, well, you can't hit a provisional ball when it's in a penalty area. I said, another ball. And so this conversation is going from one side of the green to the other at him at the penalty area. And that's when I got from someone else the old, oh, come on, mate, come on. We're not playing for, I don't think he definitely didn't use the word sheep stations, but it was, oh, come on, we're just out here to enjoy our golf. And I felt like the bad guy. I mean, I didn't even get into the conversation until he asked me, oh, can I play this? I've just found it. I said, well, the answer is you put another ball in play from the previous place played. So no.
It's like it's like it's not permissible for us to enjoy our golf by playing within the rules.
A little bit. And I definitely, when the other guy got involved, oh, come on, we're just here to, I then felt like the bad guy. I didn't even get myself into the situation until he asked me the question. And then all of a sudden I was doing whatever with my putt or whatever, and I look over and he's got this ball that he's found in the penalty and just slammed it as hard as he could into the water. And I've asked someone later, oh, what did he want to punch me instead, but it decided to throw the ball in the penalty area? Oh, well, it wasn't his ball anyway. So he just, I thought, well, that's it, and here I am talking like a bad guy. It wasn't his ball that he found in the grass there in the penalty area.
You should have just let him play it for a wrong ball.
As I said, I didn't even get myself involved in that situation until he asked me the question and I gave the answer. And what was I going to give him a different answer? Yeah, go for it. We're not playing for sheep stations. Whatever you want to do. I was never going to say that.
Do you see any development in the rules, especially since 2023? They've touted, fixing up a few of the holes in the rules of golf. Do you see any possible developments in 2023 or beyond? Personally, I have seen a lot of technology come into golf in the last 10 years, which is just technology comes in a lot quicker than they can change the rules, and they have to sort of make something up at the time. But for you, how have you seen the development, and how do you think it'll go going forward?
I really don't know going forward. I'm probably not in a great position to, you would have more visibility and know all about that more than I would. And I do believe that I was so very beneficial for me to not really have learnt the rules until 1/1/19. And I really didn't know much about the rules before that, except you mark your ball on the green and use the tee in the teeing area if you want. So I was very fortunate. So in a way, I almost look forward to that 2023 as being a little bit anxious about it, in that I've done so much work on the rules. Certainly the last 12 to 18 months, I've done daily work on the rules. I'm almost looking forward to, wow, that's all going to become undone, unglued, and I'm going to sort of have to go back to square one. Hopefully you can tell me that's not the case, but I'm probably not. There's a few rules I wouldn't mind changed, and I know sometimes you've asked some of your guests about those. I'm probably not one to talk about technology and what may happen in the rules. I probably don't keep an eye on it. I'll probably just wait like everyone else and see what I have to relearn or learn new stuff, and hopefully not have to throw everything that I've just learned away.
Do you have a least favourite rule?
You and I have spoken about advice ad nauseum, only 10.2, because I think it's one of those rules that can be a little bit subjective. It's an action or comment or whatever with the intention of influencing someone in the way they play a hole or play a stroke or whatever. And I think that can be open to interpretation. So I don't like that too much. As I think your opinion is, you should be able to say whatever you want. The person still needs to execute the stroke. If you find out what someone else hits, you still need to hit the ball with, they don't hit it for you. Least favourite, one of the things I wouldn't mind changing is the dropping from knee height, because, we've gone from shoulder to knee. The drop obviously still maintains the randomness of where it comes to rest. Most of the people I play with are older than me, and they're not as flexible as they used to be. And what I often see is people bending down with a little bit of difficulty to drop from knee height. And what they don't know is when they are bending down, they actually bend at the knees. So by the time they get their ball down to their knee, the knee is not at knee height when you're standing. It's actually now lower than, you can picture it, right? Someone bending over slowly, and their knee is now no longer at knee height, but they still get their ball to the knee and drop it. So it's actually just an awkward, and I reckon there should be a compromise. I reckon you wouldn't, if you dropped it from the hip, for example, I think that'd be better. That's one of the least important things that should be changed. But I think dropping from the hip would be very, very easy for anybody. It's literally just don't have to do anything. You just put it at your hip and drop it. I just see the knee causes a few issues of, the knee gets lower and lower as the person bends down to get to their knee. Their knee moves lower and lower. There's two other rules I wouldn't mind being changed. One is definitely from the book of unpopular opinions, most definitely. Another one, which is probably a bit more obscure, I believe a player must mark their ball. That's what I believe. I think every player must mark their ball with some personal markings. I think it would avoid a few issues. Certainly a match play, the whole story of, you're going to interject?
I was just going to say, you mean put an identification mark on it rather than...
Thank you, yes.
Rather than put a marker behind your ball.
No, sorry, not marking the ball. I beg your pardon. Yes, putting a personal identification mark on your ball. I think that should be a must. I think that would avoid a lot of issues. Certainly in match play, I found it it's my title as 3, and your opponent goes, how do you know it's your title as 3? Oh, there's none. Well, I don't know if it's yours or not. That simple thing.
I mark all my balls with Titleist 1.
So I think that should be a must. For example, I think that would avoid some issues. My rule, and I know you don't agree with this, but this is from the book of unpopular opinions. But I believe you should get free relief for a divot on closely known. I think a sand-filled divot, even if it's not sand-filled, I think is literally the definition of ground under repair. Literally the definition. And I think if you get to still drop it, you don't place it. If you get to drop it 30 centimetres to the left, no nearer the hole from where your ball came to rest, in the middle of the fairway when you're still 180 metres out, I don't know what advantage that gives you. Like, you're still hitting it from, and your ball is just like this far away. And it just takes away that, it's a bit of we have rule 16, right? 16.1 is abnormal course conditions. We have that rule for a reason, and that is, it's not part of the challenge of playing golf, right? We have animal holes and ground under repair and immovable obstructions and temporary water. So I think divots is almost a ground under repair. And you could put forward how do you know if it's a divot or not? Well, what does it matter if you move your ball 5 centimetres, but you're still dropping it? You don't place it. What's the difference if you've still got 300 metres to the hole? So that's from the book of unpopular opinions. I just think it would make it, and that rule's probably been, you can't get relief from that probably since the game was invented, right? So it's a tradition. It's one of those rules. But just because it's a tradition, it doesn't mean it's a good idea. week one of putting the rules together, someone might have said, that's a stupid idea. Why don't you get relief from a sandfield divot? But it's been like that for a long time. I get that. I just think that is just a bit, I mean, you could throw a few unders in that same bracket of, bunkers not raked. And I know it's the rub of the green and all that, but I just think, we're not playing for sheep stations, you're out there to enjoy your golf. So
I think Jerry last podcast, 51, mentioned that the ruling bodies, RNA and USGA, when they got together, they talked about sandfield divots or divots in general, and a ball coming to rest in them, and they spoke for 25 minutes on the topic and ended up with where it is now. So they had no intention of, they were trying to find a way to change it possibly, but they just said, how do you define a divot? And you're more than welcome to do your opinion, Stuart. Probably the last time you'll be on the podcast, but I have no issue with the opinion, and many people share it. Probably more people share it than not share it, but I'm one of the rare ones that really likes wherever the ball comes to rest. And as I've said to many people, I'd prefer it if we didn't get so many free drops. So you could, in my mind, you could almost do away with 16. And I mean the whole 16. I mean 16, 1, 2, and 3. And well, maybe not 16.4.
16.2. Snake in the bunker.
Yes.
No worries.
Yep.
Just go and play it.
Unplayable.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's just bad luck, and that's the game of golf. But anyway, that's I'm an extremist. And so you're more than welcome to your opinion, but
Thank you.
if it did, you mentioned it earlier. If it did change, Stuart, I'd play by that rule. If the rule was that you could then now take a drop from a divot in the fairway only, I would play by it. So
sounds like on principle you wouldn't, though. You wouldn't take free relief. You wouldn't be comfortable doing that on principle.
That's true. That's true. No, that's not true. I do move with the times. Whatever the rules are, okay. It's so much in the job that I previously had. Whatever the rules are is so much easier. Even if you disagree with them, it's so much easier to point someone back to, this is what the rules are. You have to play by this. I don't make the rules. It's so much easier to play that way than it is to say, yeah, well, they're thinking about changing it. And if it was my idea, I would slightly change it. So I'll give you a free drop. But anyway, I think that's been a really good chat. I don't know if we talked too much about your captaincy at the Heritage. Did you want to have you got any really ripping stories that you'd like to share about that? Well, I mean, you shared a couple about the whole 10 at St. John's, and then you had 16 at Henley, which is pretty good.
Yeah. There was one situation which wasn't overly pleasant, where over on the Henley course, there was a guy who, very good golfer, plays off scratch or one or thereabouts, and he was over on the 18th green having a putt before his round. And sure enough, he eventually, and I was on the first tee about to play, and sure enough, he walks around back onto the first tee, and there's only thing over there is the 18th green. And you sort of knew what he was doing. Anyway, he's got back to the first tee, and a former captain, knowing the rule, and this guy knows the rule too, but knowing the rule, the captain said, "What are you doing?" And the other guy's response, "Well, other people do it. Having a practice putt, other people do it." And he said, "Yeah, but I didn't see the other people. I saw you." And I'm standing there listening to all this, and I know what the rule is, and I know what the penalty is, 5.2 off the top of my head. And I thought, fortunately, I have a committee meeting this afternoon, not so long after I finish my round. Perfect timing for me to not make a scene. It's the last thing. I'm there to enjoy my golf too. I don't want to have an altercation here before I start my round. I've got a committee meeting. We'll talk about it. I'll get their blessing. The comp wouldn't have closed. We'll adjust the score, apply the penalty to the first hole, and let him know, right, that decision had been made by the match committee. Perfect timing that I've got a committee meeting. So off I go. I bring it to the attention of the committee. Oh, guys, by the way, before I teed off this morning, I wanted to let you know about a situation I saw. This happened. The guy was practicing on the 18th green, came over, the captain asked him, former captain, look, I want to just have a vote to penalise him, just to get your blessing. There's 6 of us. I'll abstain from voting, make it an odd number. And can you vote, please? Do we penalise him or not? I knew what the answer would be, right? I knew, it's a pretty clear rule. I knew what the vote would be. So sure enough, the vote was 5-0. 5-0, pretty obvious. Unfortunately, that vote of 5-0 was to not penalise that player. I'm sitting there speechless. And this room included, you know, for what it's worth, the professional, a pennant player, another guy, a lady who held a key role, and another referee, more experienced level 2 guy than me. And they've all voted 5-0, no penalty. And I'm going, did I not explain that story correctly? Like, have I missed something out? So I think I've then grabbed this book, which I always took to meetings just to look important. And I would take this and I said, can you just let me know, what are the other rules are we not going to enforce? Can you just let me know the other ones we're not prepared to stand by and, you know, back? And of course, crickets. You know, the meeting just went silent for 20 seconds. I'm going, wow, well, okay. I was writing the minutes and I've gone, okay, vote no penalty. Unfortunately, I then heard from multiple sources that that particular player in drinks afterwards was saying, well, the club captain saw it and didn't do anything about it. And I'm going, I'm sorry, I'm not going to let that fly. I've really prided myself on studying the rules hard, running competitions with integrity. And if it was my way, there's no way he would have got away unpenalised. So I heard that he was, the captain saw it and didn't do anything. And I'm going, no, sorry. So I then wrote to him. I actually contacted you in your previous role, and you said, use the word disappointing. You probably had another adjective. You said that I find that really disappointing that your committee voted that way. So I wrote to him and explained, I didn't vote. If it was my way, I can't, they voted 5-0 to not penalise. And I basically said to him, if you do it again, I'll be adopting the committee of one approach. And that is, I won't be going to the committee. I'm there to ensure the integrity of competitions and make sure competitions run fairly and properly. I'll be adopting the committee of one and I'll be applying the penalty myself. And I'll go straight to the operations team and I'll say, this is what's happened, apply the penalty. That's what's going to happen next time. So I said that to him, and that bothered me a little bit because I felt like I had been let down by the committee, to be perfectly open with you. And I felt like not my role as well, but the committee to ensure competitions and stuff run properly. And I was really surprised that it was a 5-0 vote. Actually, I wasn't surprised. I was surprised with the result of that 5-0 vote. And I just said, I'll adopt the committee of one next time. So that can be a situation that a captain can be in, where you have to be this person who upholds standards and upholds the rules and upholds integrity of competitions. And I'm not ashamed to admit that not so long after that, there was, in a shotgun competition, there were 2 other players who absolutely did not know the rule, but they're on the first green because they were teeing off on the second, some distance away. They were having a little practice putt in their 5 minutes before their tee time on the first hole. And I wrote to both of them, and they both came back quite genuinely, said, apologies, sorry, I didn't know that was a rule. Please adjust my score. Please put the penalty on. And I've gone, you know what? Here's a genuine mistake. And you could argue that the second tee was close enough to the first green to be an exception. But they were genuinely, sorry, please adjust my score accordingly. Please put the penalty on. And I said, no, let's use this as education. And I just saw that situation differently, as opposed to someone who's just stubbornly saying, no, I know it's wrong, but other people do it. So what are you going to do about it? And I didn't like that. And I suppose a captain can be confronted with situations like that, where you need to maintain the standards and ensure the integrity of competitions. And if you become Mr. Bad Guy or Mr. Unpopular, then so be it. That can be a challenge, as I see it.
That's pretty interesting. What do you mean by the second green? You could argue that the second green was very close to
second tee, sorry.
Second tee was.
Well,
close
you're
to
not
the
allowed,
first green.
Yeah, you're allowed to practice near the tee of the first hole. So their first hole of the day was the second hole. So so they were allowed to practice around the second tee. So if the first green was within X meters, and this is certainly not mentioned in the book, but if the first green where they were practice putting was reasonably close to the second tee, they could make the argument that I was practicing near the second tee, my first tee of the day.
How far, as a captain, how far would you say near? How far would you say near is, Stuart?
I'll answer the question, but this comes back to me being, I love precision and I love black and white. And, the word reasonable is used a lot in the rules. And one person's opinion of reasonable may be very different to someone else's. And I don't like that ambiguity. I don't like that subjectivity in the rules because it's not very common in the rules where there is some open to interpretation. You think there might be? I think, generally speaking, I think
reasonable and common sense are very similar. Common sense. The funny thing about common sense is it's not that common.
Not so common. Exactly. So if you were to pin me down and say, what's a meters? How far could that first green be from the second tee? I'm thinking low numbers. I'm thinking 10, 20, 30, 40, maybe under 50 meters.
Wow.
Probably 50 is too far,
Yeah, I mean, I would have said
probably 50 is too far, but
if I was the captain, and it does come down to this one does come down to the committee. If I was the captain, it would be sort of 10 to 15 meters, which I don't. But it's up to each captain to interpret
and each committee.
What near means.
So another example of that. Sorry, you go. Sorry.
Well, the 18th at the Henley is certainly longer than 15 meters. It'd almost be more than 50 meters as well, wouldn't it?
Close, yeah, pretty close.
And then what about and you're talking about the first and second at St. John's, weren't you?
I was in that case, yes.
Yeah. I don't think I know the front nine at St. John's, but
another opening for interpretation is the 14.7 and whether it's a serious breach or not. And the committee has to determine, right, how far away was that wrong place from where he should have been playing from. And there's no meters, there's no yards set in the book. So it's up to the committee to go, well, you should have been playing from way back there. That's 150 meters away. That's clearly a serious breach. That's DQ. As opposed to it's X meters or Y meters. Well, it's not a DQ. It's just the general penalty. So there's a few situations like that are open to interpretation and is to the discretion of the committee. Which
so sometimes,
because there's not that many of those situations.
Sometimes in those situations, or that exact situation you're talking about, it has nothing to do with. Sometimes it can have something to do with distance, and sometimes it won't have anything to do with distance. If someone has taken a drop 50 or 60 meters further up towards the green, but they've dropped themselves in thick rough, that only allows themselves to get out to the same position that they probably would have been from that prior place where they should have gone, then you'd almost say that wasn't a serious breach. But if that 50 or 60 meters or even 15 meters meant that they could get on the green rather than having to lay up, then possibly it is a serious breach. So sometimes in that case, it's not distance at all. It's whether you're behind a tree and not behind a tree or whatever.
I can't finish this talk without us, of course, mentioning the committee procedures, which talks about sweep stations, because again, that's going to be the argument to and from. It's just you try to make a decision, and it comes down to how serious do we take this? Especially when you're all fellow members, you're all members of a club, you've been there for X years, there's friendships, there's relationships, and you're trying to do the right thing by the field, but at the same time, you know the individual very well. And it's a challenge sometimes.
Well, before the actual, it is a challenge. The actual reason, or the way that we are going to finish is you are going to ask the GRQ OTW 52. Have you got it there in front of you?
I do, which I haven't had this vetted by you, so I hope it's appropriate, hope it's suitable, hope it gets a few comments.
It could have 3 answers. Is that what you're saying?
I'd like to think it would have 3 answers, at least as a minimum. So here we go. So this is a GRQ OTW for podcast number 52.
Yep.
It is as follows. Marcella plays her ball from a bunker, and her ball comes to rest 5 centimetres from the hole. While Marcella is raking the bunker, and so others in the group can putt out, Fraser marks Marcella's ball with permission from Marcella. Once the others have holed out, Fraser replaces Marcella's ball on the spot. Then Marcella walks up and taps her ball in the hole. On the next tee, Marcella realises she now has a ball that is not hers. Fraser had accidentally replaced his own ball on the green, not Marcella's original ball. What is the ruling? Is there any penalty to either player?
Wow. Had Fraser already holed out?
Yes, everyone else has holed out.
Okay.
Marcella was the only one. She was still raking the bunker, walks up to the green, goes, "Oh, you guys are done. No worries." Fraser puts the ball back down. Marcella taps it in. Off they go to the next tee.
That's a great question for GRQ OTW 52. Thank you very much, Stuart.
You're welcome.
I must say that your rules knowledge over the past 3 or 4 years, having got to know you better, has really increased. And now you're less of a pest. And I say that with a cheeky smile. You're less of a pest and more of a colleague, helping me as much as I am helping you with our onward education of the rules of golf. And it's always fantastic to have someone of your caliber with that, just that holding those principles and understanding of where the rules come from and why they are important. Just having someone like that beside me to make sure that I'm not losing my way. It's fantastic. So thank you very much, Stuart.
That is very, very kind of you to say and very generous of you to say. And of course, I can't go past saying how much of an influence and how much of a help you have been for me. And you know how many questions I've sent you over the last, 1 or 2 years. And that has helped me. And you've said straight away, go to 14.4, go to 14.2, go to X. And, I throw Fraser in there as well. And when I see your level of knowledge and I see Fraser's knowledge, I see that's the standard. And I see that as aspirational. I see that as not demotivating to me. That to me is a motivation. But as much as I know, wow, the standard is still well beyond. There's still a long way to go. So thank you. That's the motivation to me. That's very kind of you to say all that. So thank you for saying that. But you've been a huge part of that. And me being involved in GRQ has obviously been a massive part of that as well. And you answering all those questions for me and pointing me in the right direction has been huge. So thank you very much for all that.
Oh, no problem. That's why we're called Golf Rules Questions. If you have any rules questions and would like to know the answer, absolutely hit us up. And we will. If we don't know, we will definitely find out for you. So thank you everyone for listening to GRQ podcast episode 52. Hope you've really enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe, like, share, mainly share. Get it out to those people that have 3 differing opinions in their group of 4 about how to proceed with their shot or ball. Make sure it's not advice though. But yeah, absolutely get the word out about Golf Rules Questions, because that's, we're a community of trying to help everyone play by the rules of golf so that you know exactly where you stand and how you've played against one of your other peers and your personal best for that day, that week, that month. So thank you everyone for listening so far, and we'll be back soon with episode 53 and the answer to Stuart's episode 52 GRQ OTW question. So thank you everyone, and thank you, Stuart.
Thank you. Thanks, Blakey.